Hello, welcome to the Spirituality with Ashley podcast. I thought this would be really funny to do. I actually was being super serious about it. This episode is about trance channeling the seven. If you did not tune in to my last episode, definitely go back and check out that last episode. I am recording my intro right now, and you guys know I like to keep it casual. I am a perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist. Maybe I should say a recovered perfectionist. I'm really trying to pull that energy in. Anyway, so I'm working on making my intros a little more professional because I want to I'm building my brand here, guys, and bringing you along with me. And anyway, so I typed out this little script to read, and then I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to use ChatGPT and get them to get ChatGPT to spruce it up a bit. And I said, the prompt that I put in my little script that I wrote. And then I was like, make it unique and friendly, but casual and inviting. And I want to read you the intro that the ChatGPT made me. I think it's actually really adorable. I might keep it, honestly. So I'm going to read it to you guys. Okay, so pretend like I didn't just do the intro. All right. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome aboard the cosmic journey that is the Spirituality with Ashley podcast. I'm your guide, Ashley, and together we're diving deep into the metaphysical realms of metaphysics and spirituality, unlocking the wisdom and insights that light up our path to self-discovery and growth. If you're vibing with what we're putting out, you'll find me hanging out at ashleybrickhouse.com. Swing by for readings, drop a review, peek into my blog, or shoot me a message through the contact form. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter. Trust me, it's your golden ticket to upcoming webinars, freebies, session discounts, and the freshest scoop on what's coming next. Stay connected with me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify for even more cosmic goodness. And hey, if this podcast is sparking joy in your universe, why not sprinkle some stardust our way with a 5-star rating? Spread the love by sharing it with fellow seekers who are ready to embark on this magical journey. Oh, and here's a little secret. I absolutely adore hearing from you. Dive into the show notes for a special link where you could drop me a voice message. Your words light up my universe. So grab your cosmic compass and let's navigate this adventure together. Welcome to Spirituality with Ashley, where the universe speaks and we listen with open hearts. Let's dive in. All right, I actually do kind of like it, and I think I'm going to change some of the words around because I think it was some of that stuff where I was chuckling. I was just like, this is not how I speak. So, but I like it. I think that's cute. Let me know. I would really, really love to know what you guys think about that intro. We're all on this journey together. So, please reach out to me, DM me on Instagram, and let me know what you thought about the intro. I'm very, very interested. Or you can leave a comment on the podcast. Either way, I'll see it. So funny. All right, so like I said in the very beginning, today's episode is a continuation of the last episode where I talked about QHHT briefly. I talked about my it was actually in between lives regression hypnosis, and where I went into a past ET life, and then at the end of that regression hypnosis session that I had with Dr. Linda Backman, I connected with my Galactic group of beings who, after the hypnosis, I was connecting with in meditation, and they said that I could refer to them as the seven, and I'm one of the 7 members of this group. And so I've been channeling them. And after I connected with them through meditation, I got this extremely strong urge to try to trance channel them. I have never trance channeled before. I'm very interested in trance channeling. I think it's so fascinating, and I wanted to experience it, and it just felt really right. And so I asked Golden V if she would moderate it for me, and so she asked questions. So I got into a meditative state. I listened to a bunch of theta brainwaves for probably about 40 minutes before I hopped on a call with V. And I was in a very, very deep trance. I just kind of it was self-hypnosis, I guess you could say. I was still aware of myself but I was in a very deep meditative state. And I had headphones in because I was listening to binaural beats for the theta wave meditation. And as soon as I got onto the Zoom with her, I kept the headphones in and I did my breathing and I made sure that I was there. The 7 dropped in probably about 10 to 15 minutes before I was supposed to get on the call with V. And they just let me know. They were like, hey, we are here. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not ready yet though. And honestly, I was trying to use the method. There are a few different methods for trance channeling. You can allow your light body to leave your physical body and be outside of it, and then give permission and set the intention and allow the energy that you want to trance channel. You just allow it to come into your body. And then the other way you can do it, which is the way that I ended up doing it, is you stay in your body, your light body stays within your physical body, and it kind of just moves to the side a bit, and then you allow in that other energy. I really wanted to leave my body because I was like, I want no part of this. I don't want my brain to interfere at all. I didn't know anything. I had zero experience trance channeling, so I didn't know that even inside my body, my brain wouldn't really be able to interfere, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And so they told me that, oh man, this is weird to talk about on a public platform. Okay. So the 7 told me that it was going to be a lot of energy, and that for the first few times at least, that they wanted me to remain inside, like keep my light body inside of my physical body and to just kind of move over. And they kind of let me know how to do it. And so I just kind of kept saying like, Ashley, move aside, Ashley, step aside, hang out in the background, and then allowed their energy to come in. And when I tell you it was a tight fit, oh my gosh, I feel like people I've seen who do trance channeling, I'm going to take a sip of water. I feel like when I'm watching interviews with people and they go into their trance channel in the middle of the interview and then they come back out, sometimes they look like it takes them, like a few seconds to get it back together, but they always look just fine and they're good to go, and they keep on with the interview and they talk normally. And so I was like, I just kind of expected that that's how it was going to go, and that is not how it went for me. And I mean, obviously, I have zero experience with trance channeling. I had zero experience. I've had one trance channeling experience now, and it was so fun. It was so different. It was not what I expected at all. It was such a profound, amazing experience. I'm so excited to be able to share it with you guys. And I appreciate you being open to it and being so supportive and being excited to hear about it. I've heard from some of you, and I love that you're as excited as I am and so enthusiastic and supportive of my journey and the stuff that I'm doing. So thank you so much. I have my hand on my heart right now. I didn't realize I did it, but I really feel the loves. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't mean to add an S to the word love right there, but I feel the loves. Okay, so, oh man, I feel like I get emotional when I get very vulnerable, and you've been here with me. Okay, if you haven't been here with me, welcome. This is what it's like on an episode of the Spirituality with Ashley podcast. Should call it the Vulnerability with Ashley podcast, because I've really been trying to open up and just, be myself, be exactly who I am authentically. Okay, so back to this trance channeling experience. Okay, so I stayed in my body. I moved aside. I allowed in the energy of the 7. And man, it felt so weird. It was this very high frequency energy. And I actually asked them, I was like, can you guys help raise my frequency to just make it a bit easier on me? I didn't know that I needed it to be easier on me, but intuitively, I think a part of me did know. That inner, deeper part was like, you're going to need a little bit extra help here. So I am used to channeling. I do a lot of mental channeling. That's how I do all of my sessions, I do mental channeling, which is where I'm aware of energies around me. They don't enter me, but I can feel and experience and interpret energies into messages and stuff. And trance channeling is where you embody the energy and you allow it to kind of use your physical vessel and speak through you. And so when you take a back seat, I did not have control over my body anymore. But it didn't feel like a scary imprisonment thing. I used to be like, nope, I'm not gonna ever trance channel. That seems not okay. Like, I very much am somebody who likes to maintain control. Another thing I'm working on. Yay, hashtag shadow work. And I really don't need to control everything, but I thought it would be way more uncomfortable for me consciously to do that, to like let go of control. But I trust the 7. I know the 7. I've connected with their energy. They are a part of me. I'm a part of them. And so it felt right. It felt good to channel them, to allow them in. And man, it's just so interesting. So anyway, I allowed them in. I got on the call with V, and we set it up beforehand that I would say I am ready, or I think they said we are ready, because it was them, it wasn't me. So I didn't say I at all, because Ashley, the I that is Ashley, was not really there. I was kind of like a fly on the wall. And so I was aware of what was happening when I was channeling. That's why I'm like, I am aware that I wasn't able to move my body. I couldn't really feel any sensations toward the end of it, because I also I set a time limit. I set the intention beforehand. I was like, okay, the 7, let's do like 20 to 30 minutes only, like 30 minutes tops, because I'm not sure how this is going to affect me energetically. And I just want to make sure that I'm being safe with my energy, because I know I tend to take on a lot of stuff. And I really made sure that I was preparing myself leading up to the trance channeling session. No caffeine, no alcohol. I made sure to get as much sleep as I could. Like, I tried to be very on point with my sleep. And I really tried to regulate my immune system so that I could be very calm and not have a lot of stress and not be overloaded by life. And even with doing all of that stuff, it was a lot, man. It was a lot. And so as I was, so V recorded it. So I got the audio recording of how it went. And although I could hear what was happening while the 7 were answering her questions, I could also like feel and understand all of it was like I was part of their consciousness, like fully part of their consciousness, which was really cool, because in my physical body is Ashley when I'm not trance channeling the 7, or when I'm mentally channeling the 7, when I'm like meditating or automatic writing and connecting with them. I'm not part of their collective consciousness, if that makes sense. Like, when I'm mental channeling, I pick up on the messages that they're giving me, but I'm not part of their thought process, if you will. When I was trance channeling them, I could see and hear and feel as if I were part of their consciousness. I knew what they knew. There are a few questions when I listened to the recording, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this part. I remember hearing their whole thought, but they didn't say everything that came with that thought. It was really interesting. And so I'm going to try to like fill in some of the gaps there. So let me just slow down. I'm just so excited. I have so much I want to talk about. So I ended up being able to recall, I could recall very little about what was said after the fact. So once I came out of the trance channeling session, I remembered, I could tell you that we touched on 1 or 2 things, but it was like once I came out of it and the 7 left my physical body, I wouldn't have been able to recount what we talked about, if that makes sense. Like, I was present for it. I knew that it happened, but then it all kind of like faded away really quickly. And But when I listened to the recording the next day, I was like, oh, it was so familiar. I was like, okay, I remembered being there for that. That sounds familiar. There were some things where I was like, oh my gosh, that's interesting. And I didn't remember at all. So I thought that was really interesting to say. I feel like if my light body had completely left my body, I wouldn't have remembered anything. It's like I would have gone somewhere else. You know what I mean? Or I don't know. That's why I want that experience. So I'm not even going to speculate. I am not here for speculation. I'm here to talk about the experience that I had with trance channeling. All right. So once I came out of the trance channeling, oh my gosh, it was like once they left and I had a code word to allow them in and then I have a code word to allow them to leave, and they could feel that my body was getting very tense. And I say that because I remember at the end of the session, and I don't even know if I remember if it's from the recording at this point, it's all just globbed together for me. But like I remember toward the end of the session, because I trance channeled them for 35 minutes, and remember I set my limit to be 20 to 30 minutes, but I really wanted to hold on because I wanted V to finish all of the questions. And toward the end, the last few minutes, I could feel my hips start to tighten up. And before that, I couldn't feel any sensation. I couldn't feel anything. It's like I wasn't connected to my body, and which was so wild because there were a few times during the session where I was trance channeling where, like, because I was able to hear what they were saying, I wanted, it's like as Ashley, I wanted to participate in it, and like I wanted to smile or make a facial expression or laugh or like interact with V, and I couldn't, and it was so weird. And I remember one time my mouth twitched a little bit. I know this had to have been toward the end, because at the end I became slightly more aware and I was really trying to stay calm. I remember when I felt my body tense up, I was like, oh no, I think I'm coming out of it. And so I like told my body to relax, and I relaxed, and I went back off to the side, and I don't think it interrupted the channeling at all. And anyway, so when I came out of it, it was like once they left my body, it was like my body just kind of like crumpled. It was so weird. I sat in a cross-legged position the whole time, and I had been sitting in that cross-legged position. So the call with V was an hour long. I trance channeled for 35 minutes of it, but prior to getting on the call with V, I was sitting in the position I was going to be in for the call, in this cross-legged position on the floor. I was sitting in that for about 30 minutes. So I had been in the exact same position, not moving, for about an hour, for a little over an hour, and my body gets very stiff if I stay in a cross-legged position for more than a certain amount of time. I can do it if I'm meditating because, again, I just kind of dissociate from the physicality of, like, I'm not tapping into discomfort and stuff. And so it was interesting because once they left and it was just my energy, I crumpled in, like my head went down, my shoulders hunched over. I just hit myself in the mouth with the phone. Sorry about that. And yeah, it was like my energy. It was weird. It was so weird. And then as I came back to being me and allowed my energy to fully expand throughout my body again, I don't really know how to explain it. I was able to like take a normal seated position, like sit here normally again. I feel like I was in weird positions while I was channeling because as soon as I came out of it, my neck hurt so bad. My neck was hurting, my hips were hurting. I was just like, oh my God, how was I sitting like that? But I didn't feel the pain and discomfort until I came out of it. It was wild. It was so wild. And then I was so out of it. I felt so floaty. It felt like I'd taken 2 or 3 Benadryl. Like it was like I was just so spacey and disoriented, and I sat there and I feel like I looked so tired. I felt very tired and kind of drained. I was so tired, and I just kept drinking water. I was just parched, and you already know I have to take a water break every 10 minutes. Speaking of which, I needed a sip because parched city over here. So once I was out, or once I was, out of the trance and back to being myself, V and I we kind of sat there and talked for a bit about how wild of an experience it was. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I'm so excited to do it again. And I'm just so excited to do it again. And I really want to be able to do it live and, have you guys or whoever's interested speak directly to the seven and ask questions. I think that would be so cool. I've always wanted to do that. And so I want to give, other people the opportunity to do that. It's really cool. It's really funny. V said that she felt like one of those people, that's like at a live channeling, and they have a microphone and they're like asking questions. She is so funny, hilarious. If you do not already listen to her podcast, definitely check it out. It's called Dimensions of the Soul. She's amazing, so hilarious. She's just such an amazing soul. She's such a good spirit, such an amazing sense of humor. She's so much fun. So I listened to so let me finish the story about after the channeling. So once the channeling was over and I was done with the call with V, I went and I ate food. I drank a bunch of water. I ate the food because I really wanted to ground my energy. And for the rest of the day, this happened at about between 11:30 and 12:30. And so after 12:30, I was mentally just not there for the rest of the day. I had some meetings for work and it was so difficult. I'm so glad they weren't like super brain heavy problem solving meetings. Thankfully, it was a Friday, so they were pretty chill meetings. And when I say for work, I mean for my data engineering tech job that I do. It's my 9 to 5 right now. And sitting in those meetings, it was rough, man. I was so mentally exhausted. And then as the day went on, I got more and more physically exhausted to the point where at about 4 or 5 p.m., around 4 or 5, 6, when I would normally be going to the gym, I couldn't do it, man. I felt like I got hit by a truck, a really big one, like a huge, 18-wheeler truck, not just a little pickup truck, a big one. And I was just drained. It was hard to will myself to move. I mean, I could get up and move, but I was just so tired. I was like, all I want to do is sit on the sofa, which is weird for me because I always have a ton of energy. And even when I don't have a ton of energy, I'm able to push through and still do the things I need to do, even if I don't feel like doing it. And so I was down for the count. And I think I ended up sleeping for 10 hours. I had wild dreams. I took a shower. I think I took a bath. Yeah, I took a bath with crystals and stuff to recharge my energy. And I was just it was just like a zombie in the bath staring at my little northern lights that I have displayed on my ceiling from I have a little thing that creates northern lights looking stuff that move along my ceiling. And I like doing that when I'm in a bath. Normally I'm not paying much attention to it. I'm just kind of in the ambiance. But this time I was just kind of sitting there with my head to the side, slumped over, just staring. I just didn't have the energy for any of the things. But the next morning I woke up and I was fine. So I slept, I recharged my batteries, I ate food. It was a good time. And then, so the next morning I got the recording. I don't know when V sent it. She either sent it that day or the next morning. I think it was that day that she sent it, but I didn't get around to listening to it until the next morning. And oh my gosh, it was so wild. And so as I was listening to it, I was typing out notes to send to V because I wanted to tell her about the things that I remembered and how it felt and stuff. And so I'm going to kind of read you part of that email that I sent to her so that I can share those things because it's so interesting, the perspective of being in body while you're trance channeling. It's so interesting. So I told her that I sounded, so as I was listening to it, I was like, oh my gosh, I sound like a different person. The cadence of my speech was so different. The sound of my voice. She said that I even looked different. And V is psychic and she can read and see energy. And she was like, it was not you. You were definitely not there. I was 100% talking to ETs. And as you may know, V is a contactee and she has a lot of experience with ETs, so she's very aware of what that energy is like, and she was like 100% you were trance channeling a collective ET consciousness. So interesting. I felt like I was talking like a robot. It was so weird to listen to it. the seven are very short and succinct. Like, they give one word answers. Like, whatever you ask, they give you they answer the specific question that you ask. If you've ever asked me a question, you might notice that I like to give an explanation because I want to make sure that you understand. The seven aren't trying to make sure that you understand. They're just like, if you don't understand, tell us, and then we'll give you more information, but we're going to give you the least amount possible that we need to give you. Like, it's such a weird. And so as Ashley in the background, I kept wanting to like explain, and that was part of me wanting to like participate in the session when I was trance channeling, because I was like, oh, give more of the answer, explain it, paint a picture, and they don't do that. It was so interesting. I feel like they were very clear in their answers. Well, kind of. So they spoke very short and succinctly, and the cadence of my speech when I was trance channeling them made it sound like they were also expending a lot of energy to be here and talk through my body. Like, I was speaking in like three words at a time groups to get my sentences out. It was really, really interesting. And I said that I was like, it's so funny because it was like I was a fly on the wall during the channeling. Like, I felt like I was in the background in my body. And it was like driving me bananas to listen to them and not be able to speak up and give more explanation about the things that they were saying. Because I always want to talk a lot and really explain and break things down. And I could feel myself getting uncomfortable when they'd give really short, choppy answers. And that's cool. I actually did say that there. I also got to feel their knowledge. So when they were answering, I could understand and see the whole picture of what they meant, even though they only used a few words or sentences. So that was really wild. And that's why I want to kind of like expand on some of their answers that they gave with the extra information that I was able to get. And so like when they were talking about, at one point V asked about groups that they work with, and I could hear and see flashes of tons of groups that they work with, even though they only mentioned two of them by name. They mentioned the Greys and Beta Centaurians, but like God, it was such a rapid motion flash, like mantises, Pleiadians, Andromedans. There were so many groups that they mentioned, and some groups that like I don't have the words for because they weren't names that I recognize, but I could see it was so fast, like so rapid. It's hard for my brain to kind of like put it into words and process, but lots of groups that we don't even hear about yet, which I thought was really fascinating. And I would love to ask them more questions about that because I'm so interested. Like, tell me about other ETs that we don't hear about, not just the big ones that everyone's always mentioning. I could also feel myself wanting to make facial expressions because I was still in there, but my body didn't respond to what I was doing. Like, I could feel that I wanted to smile, but my mouth would just slightly move and go back to neutral. I also wasn't really fighting it or trying to force it because at any point I could have been like, I'm done here, like, I'm not interested, and they would have left. So it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just... I was very aware, but it was like I was a bit aware. I wasn't very aware. I was a bit aware, but it was like I was in a fog in the background. It's not like I was sitting there watching a very clear movie or watching a TV show. Because I was in such a deep trance state, it's almost like being super sleepy and somebody's trying to talk to you. That's kind of what it was like. How I described it to V was, it was kind of like when you're watching TV and talking to the TV and responding to what's happening on a show or a movie, but then the movie or the show keeps going without reacting to you. That's what it was like being inside of my body while I was trance channeling. So like while I wanted to react to what was happening I could feel myself reacting, but none of my reactions were being shown because I didn't have control of my body. So it was like talking to a TV and not having the TV talk back to you. That's what it felt like. And V asked some amazing questions. She asked all these like universal knowledge questions, which were so cool. And I'm really excited to share the channeling with you guys. This is probably going to be a series because I'm already at 30 minutes here and I still have a few more things that I want to talk about. So I loved her questions. And she also asked some more details about the 7, which was lovely because I want to, learn more about them and share more information about them. And I just thought that was so fascinating. And so I also felt slight energetic shifts as each of them kind of took turns. And it's really hard to explain because they were collectively communicating, like they were sharing a consciousness, a collective consciousness. And like listening to the recording, I could hear slight changes in my voice and the way that I was speaking as like one of them would take the lead and be the voice and answer a question. It was so interesting. So I could hear slight changes in my voice, and the whole, like I already mentioned, but I had like 3-word truncated speech. I was so frustrated about it because I think they spoke pretty slowly and I speak very quickly and I use a lot of words. And so it was weird that they were speaking 3 words at a time and then pause 3 words, pause 3 or 4 words. So weird. I remember being in the background and I was like, get it out, let's go, like spit it out. My analytical nature was like also really super toned down. I am very analytical and I can be very logical, and that helps me to interpret stuff. And I've learned how to allow my analytical mind to kind of like be very toned down, so I'm able to mentally channel, receive information, but then still interpret it and make sense of it. And that was not really there. I was really just watching and listening, which was really cool. And as I said, sometimes I wanted to react, but it was so strange. And the last 10 minutes of the recording, I started speaking a bit more smoothly. I feel like it was because another one of the members of the group came through, and I think we were all getting a bit more comfortable with the energy. They were getting a bit more comfortable speaking through me. It was toward the end of the 35 minutes, and I think I was allowing it to happen more. So some of the time during the channeling, I felt like I sounded like I was speaking a bit more gently, and other times it felt more choppy, which I found very interesting. They were also really trying to communicate in a grounded way and use words that we use so that they could help us to understand, because they didn't want it to go over our heads for our current level of comprehension of some of these concepts. They were really trying to use our vocabulary, which I thought was really cool. I also got some major downloads in the shower about like after I did the trance channeling that night, after I took my bath and I was a zombie. And like one of the downloads I got was about how time works outside of the way that we understand time, and how the 7 operate dimensionally. So they don't operate based on time. I don't even know. I don't remember. I didn't write it down, and I was so tired that I was just like, whoa, it just dropped into my head. And I suddenly had this huge understanding of like some really deep concepts that I really don't think I have the words to express right now. It was so wild. So I understood the 7 and kind of how they operate dimensionally and with each other, and it's wild, man. I'm gonna have to get more information about that when I channel them, because it was so interesting. And about time, because the way they showed me that time works, we're so rudimentary in our understanding of time. It's wild. When I got that brief understanding, and it's still within me. I can feel it in me. I'm just gonna have to dig in there and go into like a meditative state and expand my consciousness and awareness to be able to kind of open up again. It's so like open up to the concepts, because it's so complex. It's so weird to think that something is outside of our understanding, but we understand a certain set of guidelines for our lives on Earth. And so things outside of the guidelines that we understand to be true can be difficult to comprehend or absorb. I think definitely difficult to express, because there are a lot of things that we don't have the vocabulary for, because like I said, they're outside of our particular set of rules for living on Earth. It's so weird. Anyway, I felt so drained. I felt like I got hit by a truck. I went to bed really early and I just wanted to sleep. I had wild dreams where I was like living whole other lives very vividly as myself, because there were people from my life now who were in the dreams with me, and I was Ashley, because sometimes I have dreams where I'm not me, which I also find interesting, but that's not what this is about. But yeah, the dreams I was having were drastically different from my current life, so it felt like I was hopping timelines, like hopping into other parallel lives I'm having as Ashley, which is so interesting. And yeah, I also told them 20 to 30 minutes, please. I'm so happy that they were only in my body for about 30 to 35 minutes, because I could feel my body starting to tense up a bit toward the end, and I'd tell myself to relax and my muscles would finally like kind of chill out. And I already talked about this, I didn't really feel the pain or tightness until I came out of it. I think the extra 5 minutes was a bit much for my body, because I was just like down for the count the rest of the day. And I remember the 7, as soon as V was done with the last question, like immediately they were like, we must go. And I could feel myself like, I need to come out of this trance because it's a lot. I'm feeling really drained. And so they were like, we've got to go. And they I think they thanked her for asking the questions, because the 7 it's weird to say we, but the 7 are researchers and they gather knowledge, and I want to say they're like knowledge scientists. I don't know if that even makes sense though. Anyway, so, oh my gosh, it was such an interesting experience. So I do want to actually share the recording of the channeling so that you can hear the way that I was speaking, hear the difference in the cadence of my speech, and experience the answers for yourself. I really want to do that. So I think that'll be the next episode, and I'm going to end this episode here. So please let me know like what you thought about the episode. I also would really like to know if you guys have questions that you would be interested in asking the 7, because I want to do some more trance channeling sessions. I don't want to do them live yet until I'm more comfortable with the energy. So I'm going to practice it on my own first before like doing webinars and stuff where you can like directly speak with the 7. They are happy to do it. I want to make sure that we're comfortable with the process. But if you want to go ahead and start, like, you can email me questions or send them to me on social media. I'll probably make a post about it, like, what would you like to ask the 7? And I'll compile a list for the next time I do a trance channeling session so you guys can get some questions answered. I'd really like to stick to like universal questions for right now, like universal knowledge questions, and save the more personal questions. If you want to ask personal questions about yourself, save those for when it's like a live channeling, when you're directly asking the question. So yeah, go ahead. And if you have questions you'd like to ask them about absolutely anything, please drop them into an email. You can email support@ashleybrickhouse.com, or you can also send me a DM on Instagram or put it into my contact form on my website. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of questions you guys have, and really, really, really excited about sharing the recording of the channeled session soon. And with that, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for your support and for tuning in. Until next time, I will see you next time.